Hey everyone, welcome back to Upside Down Data. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I'm taking this opportunity to start building a near protocol position. But before I jump into that, let me just give you a heads up in case you're not aware about tomorrow's Fed meeting. This is the US Federal Reserve. Tomorrow, meaning Wednesday as of the time of recording, they're going to announce the newest policy regarding interest rates. There's some bad news with regard to risk assets that just came out, which is that the US labor market continues to be strong on the demand side. And that's going to push the Fed most likely toward continuing their policy of quantitative tightening, which is bad news for risk assets. So the macroeconomic conditions remain bearish for risk assets, crypto, and the stock market. Um, so be careful out there. Now is probably not the time to have leveraged position open, always risky, but extra risky right now. So be aware that that's happening and play it safe out there. As always, our attitude here is that through these bearish times, the thing to do is to be patient, to learn, and to accumulate. And so, with that in mind, let's talk about what we're accumulating. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about Near. Near protocol is a layer one blockchain. I pulled up here Nasari's website. They have lots of good information on Near. I'm not going to go into all the depth up here, but want to point you in this direction. Near is one of the potential Ethereum killers out there. It's not one of the largest market cap Ethereum killers, and so it has a little bit more upside. It was a little bit more of a dark horse relative to, let's say, Cardano, which has a $14 billion market cap, or Solana, which is just behind that at about 13 and a half, or even Polkadot and others down the list until we get to Near, which is at about $2.5 billion. But Near is a dark horse in the sense that it has some unique characteristics that give it the potential to overtake some of its competitors. And what it has that's really unique is that it uses a fully sharded mechanism for validating transactions. That basically means that it enables itself to process a lot more transactions a lot faster than its competitors, such as Solana, by splitting into pieces. So the chain will repeatedly break off into pieces, validate transactions, and then come back together and cross communicate. I know that that's not a super technical explanation, but I think it's adequate for most of us out here. Um, it's not the only sharding blockchain out there. Zilliqa is another example, but it is in the process of scaling up toward being the first example of a fully sharded blockchain, and that makes it the leading competitor in the sharding space. So buying Near is essentially placing a bet on a strategy for scaling and processing transactions quickly. If it realizes its full potential and completes its plan to scale up fully, then Near will have the ability to process 100,000 transactions per second. That's not only much faster than Solana, much more significant throughput, let alone something like Ethereum. It's also, it would blow away Visa. That would be a truly transformative technology if it gets fully online and gains some adoption. So Near is a good thing to have, in my opinion, to round out your portfolio because it gives you exposure to one of the ways in which a layer one blockchain could gain mass adoption. And as I mentioned, it's only at about a $2.5 billion market cap right now, which gives it more upside potential from that perspective relative to some of the other leading layer ones. Um, so another reason, that's why to be interested in Near in general and to have some exposure in general. But now is especially a good time to be looking at Near, and that's just because the risk to reward ratio from a technical standpoint on Near is super duper attractive. It's one of the best that we monitor. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's the upside downside potential indicator from the long term. This is the UDPI, our in-house risk indicator. And the white line here is the risk level going from +5 at high risk on the top and -5 at low risk down on the bottom. And the yellow is the price chart. And we can see very clearly that Near has been, bottoming, really kind of pushing the limits of its bearishness. Throughout 2022, I mean, it made that first bottom pushed into that -5 in the summer and has almost reached down there again. So, from a historical standpoint, near is in an accumulation zone emphatically. I mean, if we look at the UDPI from a different standpoint here, these are daily closes color coded by risk. We can see that risk has done UDPI has done a pretty good job in the past of calling these opportune times to accumulate, and also calling these highly risky times when you would want to be unloading some of your position. It's a relatively young asset, so it's only been around a couple of years, and we'll see how this continues to play out. But um, we have seen the UDPI perform well in this regard across a number of assets over an extended period of time, and I would expect that to be true of near as well. What we're seeing on near is deep green. The last time that happened, we got a bounce, at the end of the summer. It wasn't a historic bounce. It wasn't going to change your life if you were, getting in there, but we did see a bounce nonetheless, and now we've pulled back even lower and are flashing those deep green levels once again. Before that, if we go back to the middle of 2021, that's when we see the really dramatic move up, and anyone who was accumulating down in the middle of 2021 was handsomely rewarded. We do need to wait for the market conditions as a whole to cooperate and allow for this kind of move to be possible. But it's not out of the question by any means. I think it's pretty likely that we're going to enter another bullish phase at some point, and near will probably explode to the upside. It's been it pushed down below $3 recently, but the market as a whole seems to be in the process of finding its bottom. Most of the downside potential has been realized, and now we're just kind of in that bear market phase where we mostly grind sideways, maybe pull back a little bit more. But the downside risk, to a large degree, there's no free lunch, but to a large degree, has been exhausted. So the risk to reward on near is super attractive, and that's true relative to the rest of the market as well. I mean, if we just look at the UDPI on the long, medium, and short term for a number of these top assets, we can see that there are many attractive options. We've talked about some of these in recent videos. Solana, if you look at this one, also quite an attractive risk to reward proposition. And that's true of most of the market to at least some degree. Even Bitcoin's long term UDPI is quite favorable. But near is one of the headliners here. It's an especially low risk asset relative to its historical price action and relative to its competitors. So this is not to say that near should make up the bulk of your portfolio or that it would be wise to make it your largest position. Definitely not suggesting that, but it has some characteristics that make it a nice thing to use to round out your portfolio, to get some exposure to a particular technology that has potential to take this space by storm. And if that happens, we're going to see near climb up these ranks and start to compete with some of these larger market cap assets, potentially, Atom and AVAX and DOT, and maybe even Solana and ADA. There's a long way to go before we can really, see that happening, but it's not out of the question. It's all about whether it manages to scale up and, to take on that transaction volume. Like I said, the goal is 100,000 transactions per second, which would blow all the competitors out of the water. It's theoretically possible, but there's a lot of infrastructural work for them to do to make it happen. So that's what we'll be watching. So just wanted to put near on your radar. It doesn't get a ton of attention, on social media. It's not one of the most talked about assets, but it flies under the radar, and I think that it deserves more attention. And for the data-driven folks who watch this channel and who are interested in this kind of perspective, it's now an opportune time to be, building a small position in near, which is what I'm doing. Not financial advice, but the data say what the data say, guys. So hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.